His wife's hand was clamped over his mother's mouth. A needle glinted in her other hand, aimed straight for his mother's neck. The world shattered. Liam Vance, a man who could move markets with a whisper, stood frozen in the doorway of his mother's sunroom. He'd flown 14 hours, skipping $1 billion deal in Tokyo just to surprise them. He wanted to see the two women he loved most in the world, his wife Clara and his blind mother Eleanor, sharing a quiet afternoon. And this was the surprise he got. Betrayal. A nightmare painted in gentle pastels and the scent of roses. Eleanor's frail body thrashed weakly under Clara's hold. A muffled, desperate sound escaped from behind Clara's fingers. The ice in Liam's veins turned to fire. He didn't shout. He didn't run. He moved with the deadly silence that had terrified boardrooms for a decade. He crossed the room in 3 long strides, his custom-made Italian leather shoes making no sound on the marble floor. He grabbed Clara's wrist, the one holding the needle. His grip was steel. He squeezed until the bones ground together, until she cried out in pain and the needle dropped, skittering across the floor. "What are you doing?" The words were low, a serrated edge of fury. Clara's face was a mask of shock and panic, her eyes wide with a terror that made no sense. "Liam, it's not, she can't!" He didn't listen. He shoved her away from his mother. Clara stumbled backward, hitting a small table laden with teacups. Porcelain exploded against the floor. He knelt beside his mother's armchair. Eleanor had gone limp, her chest still. Her face was pale, her lips tinged with a faint blue. "Mother?" he whispered, his voice cracking. And then the pattern broke. Clara, ignoring him, ignoring the shards of ceramic around her feet, scrambled on the floor, her eyes hunting for the dropped needle. She found it, fumbled with the cap, and lunged after his mother again. "Liam, for God's sakes, move!" she screamed, a raw, primal sound he'd never heard from her. For a split second, Liam saw not a murderer, but a paramedic, a soldier, desperate, focused. It was so out of character it made him pause. That 1-second hesitation was all she needed. She plunged the needle into Eleanor's thigh, right through the fabric of her slacks. She pushed the plunger down, hard. Liam's mind roared back to life. He lunged, ready to tear her away, to end this. But as his hands closed on her shoulders, he felt his mother's body give a violent, shuddering gasp. Color flooded back into her cheeks. Her breathing, though ragged, started again, a deep, wheezing rhythm. Liam froze, his hands still on Clara's shoulders, his knuckles white, his mind a screaming void of confusion. Wait, what just happened? Clara slumped to the floor, her body trembling, the empty auto-injector falling from her hand. She wasn't looking at him. She was looking at Eleanor, her expression one of pure, unadulterated relief. The conflict in his mind was a physical storm. He had seen her try to kill his mother, but he had also just seen her save her life. The two realities couldn't coexist. One had to be a lie. And his mind, conditioned to see the worst in people to survive his world, chose the one that made the most sense to his rage. She was an actress, a damn good one. "Get up," he said. The warmth that had been in his voice minutes ago was gone, replaced with arctic cold. Clara looked at him then, her eyes swimming with tears. "Liam, I can explain. It was an allergic reaction, a bee in the tea. She's deathly allergic. She made me promise not to tell you." "Get up." She flinched as if he'd struck her. Slowly, she pushed herself to her feet, her hands shaking. "Please, you have to believe me. Call Dr. Evans. He knows. He prescribed the EpiPen." "The only call I'm making is to security," he snarled, pulling out his phone. He turned his back on her, focusing on his mother, who was now stirring, her breathing evening out. He couldn't look at Clara. If he did, he might see the woman he'd loved for 5 years, the woman who read to his mother, who planted her favorite flowers, who made this cold mansion a home. He couldn't afford to see that woman. He needed to see the monster, the gold digger, the one who would harm a blind old woman for an inheritance. It was a simpler, cleaner story.
"Liam, no," she begged, taking a step toward him. "Don't do this." He turned, and his face was a stranger's. "You come into my home, you accept my name, you eat at my table, and you do this. To her?" He gestured to his mother. "You thought I was in Tokyo for another 2 days. You thought you could get away with it." "Get away with what? Saving her life?" Her voice rose, laced with disbelief. "You saw what happened." "I saw you with your hand over her mouth. I saw a needle. My mother is blind, Clara, not stupid. She would have told me if she had some secret allergy. This was an attempt, a failed one." Each word was a hammer blow. You ever been blamed for doing the right thing? For being the only one in the room who knew what to do, only to be crucified for it? That was Clara's world now. He walked over to her. He didn't touch her. He just stood there, his presence a crushing weight. "Give me your phone, your keys, your credit cards." Her jaw dropped. "What?" "You get nothing," he said, his voice flat. "The prenup is ironclad. It has a fidelity and a maleficence clause. I'd say attempting to murder my mother qualifies. You walk out of here with the clothes on your back and nothing else." Tears streamed down her face now, hot and silent. She didn't argue. She didn't fight. She just stared at him, her heart breaking in her eyes. It was a look of such profound hurt that it almost broke through his wall of anger. Almost. He watched as she slid her wedding ring off her finger, the 3-carat diamond he'd been so proud to give her. She didn't throw it. She placed it gently on the mantelpiece, next to a photo of the three of them smiling. Then she turned and walked out of the sunroom, out of the mansion, and out of his life. The heavy oak door closed with a soft, final click. He didn't cry when he pushed her out. He cried when the door didn't open again. A small, ugly part of him had hoped she would fight, scream, prove him wrong. But she didn't. She just left. The silence she left behind was louder than her screams ever could have been. The next 24 hours were a blur of sterile white. Liam sat by his mother's bedside in the private hospital wing he owned. The doctors were baffled. They'd run every test. Her vitals were stable. Dr. Evans, their family physician for 30 years, looked up at him over his glasses. "I don't understand, Liam. All her charts show she has no known allergies. What did you say Clara told you?" "She spouted some nonsense about a bee, a secret allergy, a promise." He waved a dismissive hand. He'd already had his legal team file the divorce papers and put a freeze on every joint account. He told his security chief to distribute her photo. She was not to be allowed within 500 feet of any Vance property. He was methodical. He was brutal. He was protecting his family. Clara, meanwhile, was learning a new reality. The reality of having nothing. She had walked for hours, ending up in a part of the city she'd only ever seen through the tinted windows of a town car. Night fell, the air grew cold. She found a women's shelter, a place of harsh lighting in the quiet desperation of other broken lives. She, who had slept on 1,200 thread-count sheets, now clutched a thin, scratchy blanket that smelled of bleach. She didn't think of the money or the mansion. She thought of the look on Liam's face, the complete and utter absence of trust. That's what hurt. Some of us know what it's like to be loyal and left behind anyway. She had made a promise to Eleanor, and she had kept it, even when it cost her everything. Back in the hospital, Eleanor finally woke up. Her voice was weak. "Liam?" He was by her side instantly. "I'm here, Mother. You're safe." "Clara? Where is Clara? Was she fast enough?" "Fast enough for what, Mother?" Eleanor's blind eyes searched the room. "The bee, Liam. In my chamomile tea. I felt the sting on my tongue. It's my own silly fault. I shouldn't have been keeping them." "Keeping what?" "My bees," she whispered, a tear rolling down her wrinkled cheek. "They remind me of your father. He loved his honey. I know I'm allergic. I've been allergic since I was a girl. A terrible allergy. Anaphylaxis. But I'm old, Liam. I wanted one small thing that was just for me. Clara found out a few months ago. She made her promise. I begged her not to tell you. I knew you'd tear down the hives. She got the doctor to give her an EpiPen for emergencies. She checked on me every day. She was protecting my secret. The world tilted on its axis. Every word his mother spoke dismantled the fortress of his rage, brick by painful brick. The hand over the mouth, not to suffocate, but to stop her from swallowing, from letting the venom spread faster. The needle, not a weapon, but a cure. The panic in Clara's eyes, not guilt, but fear for his mother. He stumbled back from the bed, his hand flying to his mouth. No! It was a whisper, the sound of a man's soul breaking. Just then, a young resident knocked and entered, holding a chart. He looked at Liam, then at his clipboard, a confused look on his face. "Mr. Vance, we have the results from the toxicology screen. It's strange. We found trace amounts of apatoxin in Mrs. Vance's bloodstream." "Apatoxin?" Liam asked, his voice hollow. "It's the primary component of bee venom, but we also found a massive therapeutic dose of epinephrine. Whatever happened, sir, whoever administered this injection, they did it just in time. They saved her life." That was the wait a minute moment, the final, undeniable proof. Liam didn't just feel guilt. He felt a self-loathing so profound it threatened to swallow him whole. He had built an empire on seeing patterns, on trusting his gut, but his gut had been poisoned by his own arrogance. He saw a scenario that fit his cynical worldview, and he didn't question it. He didn't just misjudge her. He condemned and sentenced her without a trial. He had thrown the most loyal person he had ever known to the wolves. Have you ever been punished for doing the right thing? Let us know your story in the comments. He ran from the hospital room. He didn't know where he was going, only that he had to undo it. He called his head of security. "Find her. Find Clara now." "Sir, my orders were." "I don't give a damn what your orders were. Find my wife." For 2 days they searched. His entire corporate intelligence team, the best in the world, couldn't find her. She hadn't used a credit card. She hadn't called a friend. She had vanished. It was as if the earth had swallowed her whole. Liam fell apart. He sat in the vast, silent mansion, the silence a monument to his failure. He saw her everywhere, in the garden she'd planted, in the books left on her nightstand. He picked up the wedding ring from the mantelpiece. It felt cold and heavy, dead. He remembered a promise he'd made to her on their wedding day. "I will always trust you. I will always protect you." He had broken every word. His mother, recovering at home, was heartbroken. "You have to find her, Liam. You have to tell her. My foolish pride did this, but your pride might make it permanent." Finally, a break. A junior analyst on his team, a young woman who thought outside the box, stopped looking for a billionaire's wife and started looking for a woman with nothing. She cross-referenced missing persons with anonymous check-ins at homeless shelters. And there, on a grainy security camera photo from the St. Jude's Women's Shelter downtown, was Clara, handing out soup.
Liam drove himself. He left the Maybach and the security detail behind. He took a simple sedan. When he arrived, he saw her through the shelter's chain-link fence. She was thinner. Her face was pale, but she wasn't broken. There was a light in her eyes he hadn't seen in a long time. A purpose. She was laughing with a small child, wiping the girl's face with a napkin. He walked through the gate. A few people recognized him, their eyes widening. He ignored them. His world had shrunk to the woman in the simple gray apron. She saw him. The laughter died on her lips. She didn't look angry. She didn't look scared. She just looked
tired. She straightened up, her shoulders back. This wasn't the woman he had thrown out. This was someone new, someone who had survived him. "Clara," he said. His voice was raw. "Liam," she replied. Her tone was level, not cold, but not warm either. It was the voice you use for a stranger. "I know," he said, the words catching in his throat. "Everything. My mother told me. The bees, the promise, the EpiPen." He took a step closer. "I'm so sorry." "Sorry is a word, Liam," she said, not moving. "You don't deal in words, you deal in actions, and your actions were very, very clear." "I was a fool, an arrogant, blind fool. I didn't see you. I saw a story I made up in my head because it was easier than trusting." He held out his hand. "Please, come home." And then she did something that shocked him more than anything else. She smiled. A small, sad smile. "This is my home now," she said, gesturing to the shelter. "These people, they don't have much, but they trust each other. They listen. When I showed up here with nothing, they didn't ask for my resume. They asked if I was hungry." The final twist wasn't that she was a secret hero. The twist was that in trying to destroy her, he had set her free. Free from the gilded cage she hadn't even realized she was in. We all make mistakes, but what he did next is what truly matters. Smash that like button if you believe in second chances. He stood there, the billionaire, the titan of industry, completely powerless. His money meant nothing here. His name meant nothing. The only currency that mattered was character, and he was bankrupt. "What can I do?" he asked, his voice pleading. "I'll do anything. I'll fix this." "You can't fix this, Liam. Trust isn't a broken vase you can glue back together. It's a living thing. You killed it." She paused, looking at him, really looking at him. "But maybe something new can grow in its place. Something different." He didn't understand. "Tomorrow morning, they need someone to scrub the floors in the kitchen. The shift starts at 6 a.m. If you want to start there." She turned and walked back toward the soup line, leaving him standing alone in the courtyard. It wasn't a promise of forgiveness. It wasn't a reconciliation. It was a challenge, a test. He, who commanded thousands, was being offered a job scrubbing floors. The next morning, at 5:45 a.m., Liam Vance pulled up to the shelter, not in a sedan, but on foot. He wore simple jeans and a t-shirt. He walked through the gate, found the kitchen manager, and was handed a bucket and a mop. He saw Clara across the room kneading dough. She looked over at him. She didn't smile, but she gave him a small, single nod. It was a beginning, a painful, humbling, and terrifyingly real beginning. He had come home unannounced and broken his entire world. Now he was showing up unannounced to try and build a new one scrubbed floor at a time. This isn't just a story about a billionaire. It's a story about the strength it takes to forgive and the humility it takes to be worthy of it. Share this with someone who needs to see that kindness is the real power.